This episode is brought to you by Shalat Hatton and Banker. Denver is built on people who look out for each other. At Shalat Hatton and Banker, that's exactly how they approach personal injury law. When you're seriously injured, your case is more than a claim. It's your health, your family, and your future. For more than 40 years, Shalat Hatton and Banker has provided injured Coloradans with experienced, personalized representation focused on what matters most to each client. Learn more at shalatlaw.com. That's CHALAT law.com, or call 720-792-7322 for a free consultation. This episode is brought to you by Blue Sky Plumbing. The new school year is starting, and that means busy mornings and nasty new germs floating around the house. Or if you're like me, you got cats spreading dookie particles. Hey, they're plumbers. They know about dookie particles. Anyway, Blue Sky Plumbing has some back-to-school savings that have got you covered. Save $500 on a tankless water heater, $100 on a home surge protector, $150 on an active gold air purifier, and 10% off water quality product installs. Get your home ready for the new season. Visit blueskyplumbing.com and check out all of our back-to-school offers for plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical.
Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Adrian Felix, and here's what Denver's talking about. We discuss what it's like for a politician to prepare to leave office, Councilmember Parody's now vacant seat, and a proposed graduated income tax. All right, Denver, I'm super excited for this. It's always good when I get to see a dear friend and get to ask them tons of questions. Today, we have Representative Alex Valdez, who I've said is a very good friend. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're just getting back from a long weekend, so I got 3 days of rest. As you know, I'm filling in for Bree Davies, and so I'm not used to working like this, Alex, and you know how I am. I'm a hard worker, but at the same time, I get tired easy.
Yeah, tell me about it. Wait till you're my age and you'll really be feeling it.
Well,
I'm very young. I
was going to say, it's going to take me quite a bit of time to maybe get to your age. I think a decade.
Okay, fine.
Well, it's good that we're getting comfortable and throwing jabs already, as I feel like that's always been our relationship. The point that I'm having you on is when I took, this opportunity to host CityCast for a couple of weeks, they offered this idea of me being able to pitch stories, and I really wanted to interview you for a particular reason. And that's not just that you're a dear friend to me, but you are coming up on the end of your time as a Colorado legislator. You serve for House District 5. How are you feeling about the last few months of this stretch, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, the last few months is actually pretty light. I doubt we're going to be called back into a special session, so that's one good thing. But there is kind of the sadness when you're talking to folks and they suggest really great ideas for a bill to run next session. And I think that's really been the saddest part of coming to the end, is realizing it'll no longer be me that's able to bring that change that everybody wants to see so much. And there's a little sadness to that, but also 8 years is a long time.
Sure.
And I came in 2019 when things were normal. And no one had ever heard the word COVID or coronavirus or whatever. And then that became an all-encompassing crisis. So I'll say I feel satisfied as it comes towards the end. I got a lot of stuff done that I really came in to achieve, and that I'm proud of. And
Sure.
So it's all been worth it, all the ups and downs and everything else.
So that's a perfect segue into really my first question for you, is during your 8 years of your accomplishments, what do you think that you are most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an environmentalist. So I ran on making Colorado a more environmentally sound state. And so, I'm probably going to say that the fact that you don't see plastic grocery bags anymore, the fact that Denverites in the state of Colorado is not eating out of toxic styrofoam, those are huge wins. But also, I'm a huge proponent of electric vehicles. And I think my greatest accomplishment is probably when Colorado took over as the number one market for electric vehicles in the United States. We're now beating California, and I believe that's, of course, a direct result of a lot of the work that I was able to do. So, making the world a better place. Obviously, there's Suncor. There's so many. It's hard to pick just one. Um, but in total, I think a better environment than when I started.
Mm.
That's really what makes me feel good.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the electric vehicle because it really draws back to I think when I first met you 8 years ago. You had come to Greeley to knock doors for then Representative Rochelle Galindo at the time, and you came from Denver to Greeley, Colorado, in one of your electric vehicles. And I'll never forget after the dinner you were laughing about whether or not you were going to be able to make it home.
Yeah, that one had like 40 miles of range, and so it was touchy, but I made it. But no, electric vehicles have been part of my belief in what we can do to make Colorado a cleaner place because I grew up here and we had the brown cloud. We got rid of the brown cloud, and now the brown cloud is back. And
Yeah.
so,
Hmm.
obviously it makes no sense, especially in today's day and age with the Iran war and the cost of gas. It just doesn't make sense to drive a gas powered vehicle anymore. And through the programs we created, it made it a lot more accessible. So that's all good stuff.
Well, earlier in this segment, you had alluded to that people are telling you about their great ideas for what they have for next session. With that said, what is one thing that you wish you had been able to tackle in your 8 years as a representative?
Well, I'm just going to go to one of my last bills. And I think it was obviously a very controversial bill, but it dealt with the development of data centers in the state of
Sure.
Colorado.
Hmm.
Um, when I looked at that problem, I set out not what we can do for data centers, but what data centers can do for us. And so I constructed a bill that would have really put all of that data center development and kind of pointed directly at community. Um, and losing that just on grounds of kind of an emotional reaction to what data centers have been and some of the poor actors that have existed. It just it didn't feel good to lose that given that this is something that we're driving. Obviously, we're using a data center right now to have this interview. They present this opportunity to build all of the electrical infrastructure we need to pay for all of the intermittency protection, which is like batteries for your home. There's just so much opportunity to take Google and Amazon and Meta's money and make it work for us. And I think we lost that opportunity, and I lost it because I wasn't able to get the bigger picture across. And so I'd
Sure.
like to have another go at that, but that's not going to happen.
Well, when I was researching the topic, you had mentioned that anything that we lose here, that you would see that Wyoming would be the one to gain. But with
Mhm.
that said, to kind of push back on you saying that, obviously there is a disconnect, and a lot of the disconnect comes from the fears of community about what energy usage looks like in their given area. And I think that for a lot of our listeners here on CityCast Denver, that is kind of the pushback. What would you say then, maybe to ease their minds, or what data can you give maybe that can help like ease those fears?
Well, again, it's that whole mantra of what can data centers do for us, and in the big picture, with where we're headed with technology in general, these folks are going to use 99% of the power that's produced. That makes us, as residential and business users, kind of a rounding error. And
Mm.
so the goal would be to make our power free and to have it paid for through the development of these larger energy projects. That's not to mention the fact that there are projects that are doing district heat, so data centers create a lot of heat. That's free heat. There are whole communities in Europe that are being heated and having their hot water produced by the local data centers. So it really is about changing the narrative from states laying out the red carpet and letting these folks come in and just kind of ravage their energy system, use their water to,
Hmm.
what we had created, which was no water, no dirty diesel backup, at 100% investment, 30% of the money going straight to the public in the form of rebates. I think that conversation has to change
Hmm.
because you look at Colorado's economy, it's struggling. This was supposed to be a high tech economy. That's what it was always billed as when I was growing up. And now you're seeing a lot of those high tech companies um, move to Texas, where they actually have the ability to do what they want to do. And we can't lose this investment because it's really the only investment being made in the country right now in
Mm,
terms of real infrastructure. And it's not a crisis; it's an opportunity.
sure.
And I think that kind of it gets into that activist space and becomes visceral, like every issue does nowadays, which is one of the reasons I'm very glad to be leaving politics because rather than looking at it as a building with pipes and cords and it's like an existential threat. It's like a boogeyman. They personify each issue, and it's exhausting.
Sure. My last question for you in this segment, because the next segment, we are going to talk about some of the more contentious issues that you faced in like your last 2 years. But what is one thing that you maybe wish you hadn't voted for that you did in the 8 years that you served?
House Bill 1063 in 2019, my first year. That was the bill that um, defelonized hard drugs.
Mhm.
It was a huge mistake to have voted for that. So many people have lost their lives, especially here in my district, obviously having downtown, the overdosing, the seeing folks dead on the street. I take that as a personal responsibility. I don't think that was the right move at the right time in the right city. Um, and I can only say that it was a mistake. And really, that's it. I mean, there was one other time in committee where we had a bill that would have made the scanners that police use more transparent.
Hmm.
And I voted against it, and I kind of regret that. But the big vote that actually made law that I think ended people's lives was 1063,
Hmm.
and I regret that greatly.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about Sarah Parody's vacant council member seat.
This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. Charlotte Olson suddenly couldn't speak or text. She assumed it was a panic attack, but it was a stroke. She drove herself to Denver Health, where the care team diagnosed her quickly and got her the treatment she needed. Doctors traced the cause to a small, common heart defect most people never know they have, and Charlotte had it fixed. Today, she's fully recovered. Denver Health was recently certified as a primary stroke center, giving stroke patients faster diagnosis and coordinated treatment from the moment they arrive through recovery. If something feels off, don't wait it out like Charlotte almost did. Get checked. Every second matters. At Denver Health, they're with you for life's journey. Learn more at den.health/stroke. That's den.health/stroke. This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This August, set the summer trend. In addition to more visible wildfire smoke, ground-level ozone is the Colorado Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems. Want to protect your health on bad air days? Here are some easy steps. On high ozone days, avoid outdoor exercise or heavy exertion between noon and 8 p.m. Still want to get outside? Plan ahead and get out there earlier in the morning or late at night when levels are still lower. On days with a multiple pollutants alert for smoke and ozone, all Front Range residents should reduce prolonged or heavy exertion like lengthy or intense exercise. Want to know when it matters most to take these steps? Sign up for summer ozone alerts. Text Better Air CO to 21000 or sign up for emails at the Simple Steps Better Air website. And learn more ways to protect your health and stay cool at the Simple Steps blog online. You can learn more and help improve air quality in the Colorado Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org.
And we're back. So before we went to the break, Representative Alex Valdez kind of alluded to some of the more contentious moments that he's had in his 8 years serving as representative. We're going to move into a bill that you had presented and that had passed, which was a change to the tipped wage. So far, Edgewater has used the past bill. Boulder had thought about it, but decided not to do anything. Now, have you heard about Denver using this law, and where do you expect that to go?
I don't expect Denver to make use of the law. What we had tried to do in the bill was actually make the change for local governments to kind of prevent this political backlash that will happen each time you have this conversation. It's a difficult conversation.
Of
Um,
course.
but it really ties into the fact that, Denver is in competition with Edgewater and in competition with Lakewood, and we can't compete because we have a different system. And I think at its core, the people of Colorado never contemplated the minimum wage being handled at the legislature. It's a constitutional issue, and by creating this legislation that took away this kind of even field of competition around that matter, we created a city that's still bleeding restaurants. Nothing is changing. I live downtown. The original Rock Bottom closed last week. The sandwich shop across from me closed about a month. It's all going away.
Mm.
And so it really is a response to a real problem. And, those who criticize, like, potentially lowering a wage, obviously that's an awful um, scenario to be faced with. But the truth is that um, you're seeing it on the street. You're seeing Denver, it costs a lot more to eat out when you can just go to the same chain restaurant in Lakewood and pay less. That doesn't make sense. And people are going to figure that out. And I think they have. You see a lot of vacant restaurant properties in my district. And that goes back to the nostalgia of being here when
Sure.
everything was booming and there was balance and things were working. And, it feels a little apocalyptic in a sense still. I mean, we have Denver with a 40% vacancy rate downtown. We haven't come back.
Mm.
And so looking for anything we can do to create a level playing field for Denver, I think is important. And I hope that the council takes that seriously.
My question for you now, we're going to move into Sarah Parody's vacancy that she has just left open. She was one of my favorite. I definitely feel that she wasn't so much of a politician as she was a public servant. Do you have any words for her? How do you feel
Yeah.
about that situation?
Well, I would start by saying that our political debate is one thing,
Mm.
but the truth is that Councilwoman Parody has left for health reasons. And I want to say that my feelings towards her are not personal. They were just political debates. And I think in our society, sometimes that gets intermingled where it becomes about hating a person or disliking a person. I wish her nothing but the best. I hope she heals and feels better. And I actually hope she comes back because I think there's always room for folks to debate about political issues. But, I was sad to see her go because it wasn't on her terms.
Sure.
And that's not the way I want to see any politician um, have their career ended.
It definitely was a contentious moment, and it makes me happy to see those kind of moments that you just gave, where you're kind of able to, understand where politics and where we need more humanity. That said, you ran the tipped change with Representative Stephen Woodrow. It was a contentious moment, I think, for both of you to watch on the outside. Since that, Representative Woodrow had announced that he is not going to be rerunning for his seat. Do you feel that it was largely because of how contentious this issue became?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's
Sure.
what politics has become. I
Mm.
think that there's a lot of us who started in a political environment, and Representative Woodrow was one of those people that we did the work. We had the complex conversations, and that space has really been filled with anger and vitriol and social media attacks, and at least for the first time in my career this year, spray painting obscenities about me on the wall of the City O City. So the people have changed. The people have changed, and I think that a lot of politicians who have that humanity,
Mm.
it's just not worth it anymore to have your personal life kind of. It's
So,
just, I
sure.
understand it. I
Sure.
understand why people leave. I
Well,
do.
so what you just spoke about, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but you went ahead and did it. There was a
Oh,
spray
well.
painting of someone who would put F Alex Valdez. We debated about bringing it up today. I was like, I feel anyone in your position has dealt with something like that before. So it's is it, really newsworthy in that sense? Because you see that stuff online all the time,
It
every day.
was to me. This was the first. So I like to say this. When I would sit in these caucus meetings with my colleagues, they were like, "I get death threats, and I got people coming after me." That never happened to me. I've never received a death threat. I have never received hate mail. I didn't. And so when I saw that, I was like, "Well, I've either made it or it's good that I'm at the end of the run here. And I think the latter. I think it's just where politics is going. People are very upset. They have every right to be. The Trump regime is repugnant and it scares us all. And some people's reaction to that is visceral. But the problem with our party is that we attack each other instead of attacking people on the other side of the aisle. And I think that's why you'll see fewer and fewer kind of folks that come from my background or are like me getting into
Hmm.
politics here. I've talked to people out running for office. I stopped. Um, I don't know if I recommend it, quite frankly.
Well, I think you bring up a great point because there is this division that is happening. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was you finishing your 8 years. You are leaving on your own terms. For a
Mhm.
lot of people, that doesn't necessarily happen. And I think a fantastic example of this is Representative Diana DeGette. Obviously, just weeks ago, she lost her race to Malat Kiros, who it was presumed to take on after her. Now, since that happened, a lot of people have discussed what that is going to do to our upcoming city council races happening next year, as well as the mayor rerunning for his seat. Now, you have been a mayoral candidate before previously. How do you see this shaping up for Mayor Mike Johnston?
Wow. Um, I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't see the polls. I don't, like I said, I've lost, in a sense, touch with where the zeitgeist is
Hmm.
within our party, within our city.
Hmm.
Um, the Diana DeGette defeat does not surprise me. It really doesn't because that could have been anybody, and I don't think that that is a set issue. I do believe that seat will turn over multiple times in the next several Congresses as Denver tries to find the right fit for that seat. I mean, I don't know whether to call her Congresswoman elect. She's not yet, but she's going to have a tough time
Hmm.
because the issues that are driving the angst behind her election aren't really the issues that she ran on. In the sense, you're talking about Israel and in Gaza. There's a serious issue there, but it's not a Denver issue per se. And so my concern is that um, that there's going to be a lot of turnover in that seat. I don't see Denver keeping um, any congresswoman for a long period of time until the
Hmm.
actual political environment simmers down here. And I actually think it's just a lack of people who ran against that came up with that outcome. Everyone just was, in a sense, waiting for Congresswoman to get to give it up. And Milat took it to her and won, and
Yeah.
that is all it takes. And so I think it should open everyone's eyes that yeah, that's how it works in politics. Still, you you got to run hard, and you have to take the shot
Yeah.
at the office you think you should be in. And so I wish her the best. I think it'll be good to have a fighter. I just, in my heart, I hope that we're fighting about Denver issues instead of geopolitical international issues. And and then she's going to get a way in on those things. But truthfully, Denver is, like I said, we have 40% vacancy. Our job market's slow. I think we just surpassed Tampa for one of the slowest housing markets in the country. We have real problems that aren't going to be solved by a conclusion to the Middle East conflict.
Sure. Well, I think where I agree with you there is that, I remember telling my leftist friends who were celebrating Malat's win was that really the battle to keep her seat started the very next day.
Yep.
And I think that that's like the safest way to put it. But my last question for you before we move on to another segment was what advice do you have for Justine Sandoval, who is presumed to take your seat when you leave?
Right. Justine's going to be great. I've known Justine. Justine was there before I got involved with politics. So
Hmm.
Justine knows the system. She knows the players. She knows the people. I'm excited for Justine. She's well connected to community. She actually possesses a lot of things that I didn't have coming in. And so my real advice to her is be yourself. I joined the Latino caucus and the gay caucus because I'm a gay Latino. Those are things I was born with, right?
Sure.
But
Yes.
I don't join opportunity caucuses and progressive caucuses. They're not good. And so my advice to her is don't join any group. Don't become someone that can be seen as a traitor to that group. Walk your own path. That's what I tried to do. And I didn't get famous for it, but I wasn't trying to. But I did pass like 80 bills, which
Ah.
that is something that is because I walked an independent path.
Hmm. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we are going to talk about the proposed graduated income tax. And we're back. So our final segment, Representative Valdez, I sent you a story from CPR about Initiative 195. So for listeners who don't know, Protect Colorado's Future, which is an organization that has proposed this tax ballot initiative, is basically asking for a progressive taxation. The thing is that they have submitted their signatures. I want to say they need 125,000 valid signatures in order to be on the ballot for this coming November. But if they make it, that means that they are going head to head with Advanced Colorado's bill, which was like a flat tax rate, I believe, at 4.4. How do you seeing this play out in the elections, and what do you think does it mean for like Colorado's fiscal future?
Yeah, it's interesting because California did a billionaire tax, and I was watching that, and I've been watching this come together. I think two factors here are really important. Coloradans rarely vote against their financial interests.
Mm,
That's been proven time and time
sure.
again when we
Yes, I
tried to
agree.
fix Tabor.
Mm,
They are not going to vote for something that they see as hurting their financial interests. Now, it's interesting with the graduated tax because it only applies to some people, but here's the real problem. We aren't the only state in the United States, and we share borders with states that don't have tax. So when you stick it to rich people, they have the option to move to Texas, move to Wyoming, and continue to live here without paying any tax at all.
mm,
So until you actually have a national minimum income tax rate, these things aren't going to work. They're just going to drive high income people to tax free states, which it's already happening. I mean, that's why you see so many Florida and Texas plates on really expensive cars on the road. Those are people who live 6 months in one day in
sure.
Florida, wink, wink, and then come here and use our services for free. It will only amplify that.
Hmm. Well, from what I've read, in particular with studies from Bell Policy, Coloradans are very good at like reading through a ballot line and really diving in to understand what is being asked of them. So here we have like two questions. I think that the data says that they are probably more prone to accept the progressive tax policy. Now, obviously, there are like certain outcomes. One may win, one may lose, one, they could be vice versa. Colorado voters may reject both. Which one do you see them choosing? And how contentious do you think this is going to be come November?
Well, I think given everybody in the United States and in Colorado is struggling to afford their lifestyle, I think that the flat tax wins. Straight up, I think there is some divergent factors because you have these two ballot initiatives competing.
Yes.
I could see them both failing. But if one passes or both pass, because that's possible.
It is possible.
Don't
Yes,
forget,
that is true.
I think you set up a very interesting situation. I do tend to
Mm,
be on the progressive income tax side. I like that idea. Um, I don't think most high income earners have a problem with it, but it's those folks who will just move to Texas and Florida, on paper that really worry me. And
mm.
that's open. You can't like this country. You can move between states. You can stay in a state as long as you want. It's a free country as they say. But the truth is, for tax purposes, this is why Texas is booming. This is why Florida and their economy is booming. And it's frustrating to me. It's really tax avoidance policy. And so we need a national move on minimum income tax, or the states, just
Sure.
like Denver, can't compete on the wage. Now the states aren't going to be competing on tax, which is kind of wild.
So this is where I'm going to, kind of push back on a lot that you had just said, because I think that your fears about people leaving or all this stuff are kind of a little bit unfounded. And I actually completely disagree. I think that Colorado voters completely reject the flat tax and choose the progressive tax. And I believe that for a few reasons. I think that you need like a strong Republican Party in order to present that information and to like really push it. I don't think they have that. I think Republicans have kind of given in, seeing as like at the top of the ticket, they've chosen Victor Marx. But I also see this as like a unifying thing on the left, that like you will have DSA people who are for this, and you will have your everyday, maybe Shannon Bird supporting the progressive like tax policy. So that is why I see one winning and one failing.
Your lips to God's ears, baby. I mean, at the end of the day, people in Colorado tend to not vote against their financial interest. And all I can say is when you look at voting demographics, it's overwhelmingly homeowners. So a flat tax is very sexy to them. It is very sexy to me as a homeowner. Um, to me, they're kind of separate issues, but it's also the time in which they're being asked. Everyone's hurting right now. You ask them for a tax increase. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. But a tax decrease, I do know because I've seen Tabor on the ballot. I've seen it brought back to the ballot, and I've seen the voters of Colorado every single time stick with what is in their own financial best interest. And so, at the end of the day, I don't expect that to change. Although the demographic of Colorado is changing, so I could be wrong. We'll have to talk after and see how it goes. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure what will happen is that I'm 100% correct and you're absolutely wrong.
that's usually how it is.
Yeah, that's usually how our discussion ends. But before I let you go today, I did want to ask you one question. Yeah. So with your political career, I guess somewhat ending, because like you could always come back. What is next for you?
Well, I'm going to go back to doing what I do, and that is environment. So, what I do is help people to go from dirty energy to clean energy. And there's plenty of opportunities there with the growth that's going on in the tech space. There's also, there's just a lot there. So the future's bright. The first thing I'm going to do is try to be a little less engaged in politics because it hurts the soul. It really does. I want to go back to being who I was before, which was just happy loving, fun loving hippie who believed in solar power and electric cars.
Yes.
And now I've become this hardened politician. So there's a lot of good coming. I will miss making an impact in this way, but I certainly don't feel like I left anything on the table. And I'm when I look back at the 80 bills, there isn't one of those that I'm ashamed of, and I think that that's really the key. And the last bill signing I had enshrined a patent ban on conversion therapy. It's been a good run, and I really think I helped community. You can get prep over the counter because of me.
Can.
You can do all this stuff, and I think there's a part of me that wished I got a little more love for those things, but that's not the way politics is. It's not. There's no time to say you did a good job or thank you. It's time to move to the next person to go after, really.
Well, the saying is, thank God for term limits. But what I'm wishing for you is that you get some rest, come back to yourself. I do think that you're right, but I think that the phrase is like ignorance is bliss a little bit. That like when you're not in the middle of it and you are back, you kind of get to maybe focus on things that are more important to you and not be so, I guess, drugged down by the politics that is politics in 2026. But wishing you the best, Alex. Thank you so much for sitting with us today, Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Adrian. Thanks for having me. And thank you, Denver, for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. And I hope at large you're proud of the work that I did.
And please stick around for a sponsored conversation with host Bree Davies and Lauren Howe, Program Supervisor for Healthy Food for Denver's Kids.
Hey, Bree here with Lauren Howe, Program Supervisor for Healthy Food for Denver's Kids. Lauren, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Hi, Bree. Thanks for having me.
So, Lauren, tell us what Healthy Food for Denver's Kids is about and how it came to exist.
Healthy Food for Denver's Kids, or HFDK for short, it exists because no child should have to learn on an empty stomach or miss out on the nutrition they need to thrive. It was created as a result of a resident-led ballot campaign that Denver voters approved in 2018. I created a small fund, about a penny on a $10 purchase from our sales tax, that is providing healthy food access and hands-on food education for Denver's youth through grants to local nonprofits, public schools, and city agencies. It's really about reducing hunger now while also building lifelong healthy habits for Denver's youth. Since the program started, we've given out more than $100 million to over 120 organizations. And one more thing that's important to note is that when voters approved this initiative in 2018, it was for a 10-year term. So it is set to sunset in 2028.
Oh, that's a nice update because I remember voting on that. So it's so cool to hear how much it's done already. But can you paint a picture of food insecurity in Denver right now? Like, how widespread is the problem, especially along with the rising cost of living?
Yes. So unfortunately, food insecurity in Denver is fairly widespread. To dig into the data a little bit deeper, last year, the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment ran a food insecurity survey that went out to more than 3,000 residents across all 11 city council districts. And that data showed that approximately 1 in 3 Denverites, or about 35%, reported cutting the size of or skipping a meal because they didn't have enough money to buy food. This is obviously a huge problem that's only exacerbated because of the rising cost of living. And it has real consequences for children, families, and the wider community.
I have to say, I'm in quite a few neighborhood groups online, and I see requests for support all of the time. So I see the problem anecdotally. I know it's everywhere. Since the program launched in 2019, what has it actually been able to deliver for the community?
Yes, I think it's important for listeners to know that HFDK is really a Denver success story. When voters invested in it, that's really translated into real results. We do a lot of different types of programming that meets diverse needs. So we fund meals and snacks, grocery boxes, connections to federal food programs like SNAP and WIC, and also hands-on learning like school gardens and cooking classes. Since it began, our partners have distributed more than 55 million pounds of food, reaching more than 100,000 Denver families each year. And 99% of clients last year said that this program helped reduce their worry about where their next meal would come from. Our grantee programs are really community-driven, rooted in equity and cultural responsiveness, and we fund all types of things. I wanted to share just a few examples.
Yeah, please do.
For example, Denver Public Library, Denver Botanic Gardens, Denver Public Schools are some of our big grantees that are providing healthy snacks at branch locations, produce boxes to neighbors, and more healthy food in Title I schools.
So I have to be honest, I know our listeners. They're listening to this right now and they're going, I want to support this work. I want to connect with an organization. What can they do if they're listening right now?
Yes, this work truly belongs to community, so excited to engage listeners. The first thing to do would be to visit our website, denvergov.org/HFDK, where you can sign up for email updates, look at our partner organizations and volunteer, share success stories about the program. And then if you're a local organization that does this kind of work, you can also apply for our grants. We expect to release our next funding opportunity later this year. In general, I think addressing childhood hunger takes all of us, and Denver's really shown what's possible when community comes together around this ambitious goal.
Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Bree.
To learn more about healthy food for Denver's kids and everything the initiative supports, head to denvergov.org/HFDK or by following Denver Public Health and Environment on Instagram at Denver_DDPHE or find DDPHE on Facebook. Thanks for listening to CityCast Denver.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Representative Stephen Woodrow about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcast, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. And thanks to our new neighbors, Jess L., Andrew W., and Kelsey S. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya!